Welcome to Small Business Big Results, a show where we share stories from small business owners and fast-growing startups. I'm your host, Brian Dean, and today I have Andrew Gazdecki with me. Andrew is a 4-time founder with 3 exits, former CRO, and founder of MicroAcquire. Andrew has been featured in the New York Times, Forbes, Wall Street Journal, Inc. magazine, Entrepreneur, and more. And today we're discussing key roles that you should hire for your business as you grow. Andrew no doubt has a ton of experience hiring for different roles, particularly during startup growth mode. So I know he's going to have a ton of great advice on today's episode. Yeah, one thing I want to highlight, Andrew, that's really interesting and sort of counterintuitive is that most companies really focus on skills when they're hiring. If you look at job postings, most of those bullets of things they want is like a degree, years of experience doing this, years of experience doing that. There's very little about like, of course they put that stuff like self-starter and all those things, but it seems to be sort of an afterthought and a bunch of buzzwords as opposed to something people actually hire for at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think the key with, building a startup is building a team. You don't want to hire just a bunch of individual specialists that don't get along together, don't jive together. And you also got to remember as, the founder of a startup, you have to work there every day too. So you want to have a team that you can laugh with through the ups and the downs. And so I've always been a huge proponent of creating a fun, inclusive, diverse work environment. And I will say there is, obviously a huge importance to hire really smart and talented people, especially as CEO. Your job is essentially to hire people to the point where you are the most useless person in the business. But I think when you have a team that, really rallies behind your mission and again is excited to come to work, that's when you get the best out of people, in my experience, instead of just the flashy sort of resume. And, if you get one bad apple in a group of 5, it can ruin the culture for the entire company. So, and by bad apple, I mean, maybe they disagree with certain decisions. Maybe they just don't align with your company's values, whatever it may be. It's just a mismatch, not just for you, but also for the person that you've just hired. So I always I'm usually the last person that you would speak to when I'm hiring, usually the first and the last. And so I'll dive in deeply, just like, who are you? Like, what do you like to do for fun? When are you most upset at work? When are you happiest at work? And then in reference calls, I'll ask, what motivates this person? I don't ask, like, did they do a great job? I'll briefly ask that, but I focus more on, how can I motivate this person? How can I ensure that they're the happiest when they're working with me? Because I'm a true believer that if you love what you do, you're going to do your best work. And so I try to get that. I have a belief everyone has an extra 20 to 30% you can really get out of them through motivation. And so that's where a lot of that thinking comes from.
Yeah, interesting. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the DMV. Like everyone hates going to the DMV and part of it is the bad service. And I always think part of that is just that working at the DMV probably sucks. So those people are kind of taking it out on you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not just the whole experience. It's like their perspective. They go into like this place with fluorescent lighting and everyone's upset with them, always complaining about how bureaucratic everything is. Like that is one of the reasons and it reflects on your customers, right? So it's another thing, the importance of hiring people that are just happy to be at work. It rubs off on everyone, the partnerships, stakeholders, customers, and everyone else.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I mean, I think the simplistic version of what I'm trying to say is, happy teams create happy customers. And if your business is, bootstrapped or funded and you're looking for investors, happy teams create happy customers, which leads to happy investors. So if you don't have a happy team, you're not going to have happy customers and you're not going to have any investors. So it really does all start with the team. Yeah.
And another reason, just a quick thing about hiring enthusiastic people, because I'm the same way. Things change so fast, no matter what you're doing, whether it's tech, marketing, whatever. Someone can come with a skill set that's really good, but you need someone that's going to roll with the punches. You're going to need someone who's going to keep up to date with changes. You're going to test new things and try new stuff. So skills are great, but honestly, a lot of the things, especially non-development stuff, isn't rocket science. Like SEO and content marketing and like things like Twitter. I mean, you weren't like a Twitter expert. You just want to be on Twitter and you just put your best foot forward and if you find people that can do that, like you said, you can teach them most of these skills.
I completely agree. And I think if you do the hiring right in terms of your culture, they're going to want to go that extra mile. They're going to want to put in that extra 10% that helps them learn the role, ideally take over the role and make it better than, let's say you were doing customer support before. You hire your first customer support rep. If that person is, excited, enthusiastic, and motivated, ideally they're going to take over that role and do a much better job than you ever could have. So in my opinion, leans into, just better output in terms of, the work that you're going to get, regardless of their skill sets, just because of the effort that they're going to put in.
Yeah, good advice there, Andrew. So my next question is, when it comes to delegating, so besides you gave a great piece of advice, which is do the job yourself. That's true for all, even outsourcing a task, in my opinion, unless it's like really a one-off thing. Even if you're outsourcing to like someone on Upwork that's not a full-time employee, it always helps to do the thing yourself. This is a mistake I made early on because I read the 4-Hour Work Week and I was like, I'm just going to outsource everything to VAs in India and just chill on a beach. And then I hired these people and I was a horrible boss, I guess you would call me, even though they were, VAs, because I would give them a task and I had no direction, no advice, no words of wisdom to impart on them as I gave them this task. Like, oh, while you're doing this, be careful for this. I was just like expecting magic. And of course I was disappointed again and again. And it was my fault because if I did the task once, I would have discovered a million things that I could just write up in a document and send it to someone. Besides doing the job yourself, what are some things that business owners should keep in mind when they are delegating something to a new staff member?
I would say have clear expectations up front and then also be available for help. Like a real world example, when I launched MicroAcquire, I was legitimately doing all customer support, all marketing, all product decisions, all vetting of the list, basically everything. I was working like 16 hours. I don't recommend it. It was just such a fun, I always say like it was the funnest video game I ever played. So I just always wanted to play it. But again, going back to like understanding the role, when you delegate over to someone new, you want to be there to support them. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier about understanding your role as a CEO. It's not to do everything, but again, it's to make sure your team is happy and they have everything they need to succeed. And so part of that could be having an outlined onboarding process, training process. I personally love just ride-alongs where basically when I hired my first customer support rep, we would just have a meeting at noon to like 2 every single day. And she would just watch me work and she'd have questions and she'd also be working. So we'd be kind of working side by side.
Interesting.
So it kind of worked as like I'm also working, but teaching you at the same time, like in real time, rather than just saying like, you're hired, here's the book, I'll talk to you in a month. So I think just, being empathetic to them being new in the role, being available to jump in to help. But then also, again, really doing everything you can to set them up for success. And I think you can do that by showing leadership and just being available.
Yeah, I think it's an important point, Andrew, because most people, when they think delegate, they think delegate and done, where you hand them, like you said, something and you're just like, good luck with all that. Let me know how it goes. And it's really more of a process than like a step where you just sometimes it does work magically. Someone comes on board, they usually have some experience in the area. You just hand it off to them and they just crush it. But that's pretty rare for that to happen.
Yeah. And I've experienced that. Some people are like that. But one other tidbit too, as a piece of advice I'd give is, if you have contractors or if you have people that you're hiring on Upwork, treat them like regular team members. Celebrate their birthday, say thank you. Like these little things, like one kind of cheesy thing we do at MicroAcquire is every day I have a thing in Slack where I just do a daily appreciation. I just say someone's name and just give them a compliment because I really mean it. Like, thank you for working at my company and thank you for doing this. Because you got to realize people can work anywhere they want. And the fact that they chose your company to spend the majority of their time, during the week with you, I think that's just a testament, that you should repay back in appreciation. And then that motivates them more. And again, fosters, a more positive culture. So I've always done that with all my contractors. Even if we're working part-time, make them feel like they're really part of the team, and you'll get more out of them as well.
Yeah, that's really good advice, Andrew, because when you work with a contractor, it's easy to think of it as a short-term thing until 5 years later, you're still working with the same contractor and you realize, wow, this small project has ballooned into this ongoing thing for 5 years, and they consistently deliver good stuff. We all have those contractors. We won't share with anyone because they're too good. But it's important, like you said. I've even put some contractors on my about page, on staff pages, even though they're part-time, just because to show like you're a part of the team, you're contributing to what we're doing. It may not be full-time, but to me, the distinction isn't necessarily super important if you're delivering good work over time. I mean, I have a contractor that I worked with for 9 years, and he's been amazing. So I talked to him on the phone. I'm going to go visit him in Croatia. Like, it's, I don't, like you, I don't have this like line in the sand between employees and contractors and treat them totally differently.
Yeah, and that's great. Like you've built a personal relationship with that individual, and they're just going to want to work that much harder for you because you truly care about them and you've been empathetic and a great boss to them, great leader. I'm sure they've learned a ton from you like I have. So, that line of thinking, I think, is where you really win in business is, again, there's a quote by Michael Jordan that I always reference, which is probably one of the most quoted quotes. But talent wins games, but teams win championships. And then another quote is, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. And so I've always loved those two quotes and how they intermix. Just, again, the importance of a team that is fully committed. I would go as far as saying that, the best team, regardless of the market or their position in the market, will win.
Interesting. Yeah, it's because it gets talked about, but not as much. It's all about positioning and product and this stuff. But at the end of the day, like, it's like sports, like you said. I mean, you can have a talented, if you follow sports, we've all seen in every sport a team that looks unbeatable coming out of the off season, and they collapse. And it's like my dad used to tell me growing up, a team will beat a group of individuals every time. And you see that in sports all the time. A scrappy team that plays together will beat the Goliath more times than you'd expect. And it's similar for a startup.
Yeah, entirely. I mean, we talk about marketing, we talk about sales, we talk about messaging, positioning, support. But as a founder, you can't do all those roles, and you cannot be involved in all those decisions. There's just too many. And so another part I'd probably throw in is, you really want to empower your team to, let them know it's okay to fail. Like, try different things. Like, ask for forgiveness, not approval. Like, try stuff. Like, your ideas are just as good as mine. Another quote I really like is, without data, you're just another person with an opinion. So when we have these marketing debates, I'm just like, let's just try it. If it goes wrong, then we learn from it, we iterate, and then we improve. And that's how a startup is built. But again, all of that work is done by a team. It's not done by the founder typically, unless that founder doesn't sleep.
Well, it's Elon Musk, but that's kind of a different type of dude.
Yeah.
We're not Elon Musk, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
So us mere mortals have to build a huge team to do the work. So switching gears a little bit about finding staff. So let's say because this podcast, this show is really for small business owners that are looking to step up their game. So when, say, a small business owner is like, look, I listen to the podcast, I want to hire someone like Andrew says, someone enthusiastic about my business, will love working with my culture, my hours, my everything. They're just all about it. Where would you go about finding someone like that?
I think there's a few places. For me, I look for passive candidates. So my wife's a recruiter, so she owns a recruiting company, so I kind of have a little bit of a hack there. But let's say I didn't have that. I would probably look for people through referrals or just on social. Like, have you heard of my brand? Do you like my brand? And we have actually found, like, my head of marketing, we found through social as an example.
Really?
Yeah. He just loved the brand. He came to the interview with like a MicroAcquire shirt on. And I was like, okay, I like this.
Nice.
So I would say the more that you're able to articulate your brand story and get people excited, the easier recruiting is going to be. I can't tell you how easy it is, or how much more easier it is to recruit when someone has already heard your brand, they're excited about your brand, and it just draws them in that much more. But other typical tools is, job board listings are always great. You definitely have a lot of filtering out to do, but if I had to pick just two, I would say just referrals from other people, and then ideally just throwing something up on social media and seeing if someone bites on that.
Yeah,
because that's where you'll find a fan or someone passionate about your brand.
Right. Yeah. If you're hiring for skills, a job board will have a checklist thing, filters, and all that stuff. But like we talked about, it's not going to. Ideally, they'd have a filter heard of MicroAcquire and that heard of Semrush, love Semrush as a filter for finding candidates, but they don't. They're very skill focused. So you really want people that are already familiar with your brand, especially for a bigger role like head of marketing. Like you want someone who's already like, I have 10 ideas on how we can improve MicroAcquire's marketing on day one because I've been watching you guys from afar. I think you guys are doing great stuff and I have a bunch of ideas I just can't keep in anymore. I need to help you.
Yeah. Another tip too is if you do go just kind of like the typical job posting route is you can ask those questions like, what do you think about my brand? What do you think about the product? And that can help you filter out a lot because if someone hasn't like tried the product or looked at or research the business, to me, that's a big yellow flag in terms of, are they just looking for a job or are they looking to work at, my business specifically? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's a really important distinction because, you can work anywhere. And I think it's best you work at somewhere that you're really, really excited with rather than just, a place that'll pay you the amount that you need to make for whatever reason. Not saying that's a bad thing, but I found that, again, going back to the theme of just the enthusiasm and just the, contagiousness of just positivity when the whole team is rowing in the same direction, that's where you want to get to. And to find those people, you got to, find people that are excited about your brand. They've heard about it. They've tried your product. Maybe they're a customer of your product. If you're a restaurant, maybe they've eaten there one time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's how my first job, I worked at a Chinese restaurant when I was 15, and it's because I went there all the time. I went like twice a week, and I loved their food, and one day they were just like, do you want a job? And I was just old enough to get a job, and they hired me on the spot. And I was super enthusiastic because I just loved that Chinese restaurant. I mean, I was mopping floors and stuff, but I still enjoyed it because I was just a big fan of what they were doing, and you got free food while you were there. So for me, that was a huge motivator when I was 15 and eating like basically an unlimited amount of Chinese food. It's true. If you're a customer, it's the best person really to hire.
And on the flip side too, I've hired people at MicroAcquire that have just emailed me. Like we don't necessarily have a specific role, but just, again, it's so hard to find that passion and that motivation. When you do, I always see if we can make, a role available.
Yeah. So I have one last question before we get to our rapid fires is regarding, we talked a lot about marketing. What is your take on marketing? I know it depends on a lot of things, but just generally, do you recommend that people do marketing in-house or startups do marketing in-house, or should they outsource it to a marketing agency?
I would definitely go in-house. Depending on what aspect of the marketing, I think you can outsource digital ad spend, a lot of the stuff that can be copied, so to speak. Mm-hmm. So if it can be copied easily, like a Google Ads campaign, I can research that, copy that in a day. If it's something like that and it just needs to be monitored, I think that could be outsourced to an agency. But other aspects, I guess, put it another way, the parts that you want to keep in-house are the parts that are going to be the biggest drivers of growth for you. So for MicroAcquire, the biggest driver of growth for us is really, brand, storytelling, product marketing. We have all of that in-house. Those are aspects I just can't ever see outsourcing, but I also see companies doing it fantastically. Yeah. So I think it depends on the company. And then also your skill set as a founder. Like you might not be a good marketer as a founder, and that's entirely fine. I personally love marketing. I consider myself like on the marketing team. I don't carry the CEO title at MicroAcquire. I just say I'm the head of marketing or the CMO or something like that. I don't actually say that, but the team kind of views me as the marketing guy.
Yeah.
So I think it really depends on your skill sets, but I have seen people successfully, outsource content, digital ad spend, like I said before. But I think the ones that you really want to keep in-house are, again, the ones that you're going to see the most growth with. And then that's really where you make them a competitive advantage over your competition. Because the one thing you don't want to do with marketing is just run the same playbook that they're running. And then it just becomes who can spend the more on ads or who can write more on content. You want to have like a specific strategy that's unique to your business, and you turn that into a competitive advantage.
Yeah, good advice there, Andrew. Now it's time for our rapid fire questions. You can just say the first thing that comes to mind, and you can say pass if you choose to, but it sounds like you're going to answer them all, which is great. So what's your favorite book?
Strategic Entrepreneurship by John Fisher.
Is there a CEO that you're following or studying or looking up to right now?
I would say Prague at Twitter, or ex-CEO at this point.
Okay.
I think the way he navigated that whole Elon Musk situation was pretty epic.
Cool. And is there anything you're nerding out about right now that's not related to business?
Potential rebrand.
Okay.
Oh, not related.
Oh, no,
to
you
business.
could say no, it could be related to business. I've seen this acquire.com thing on Twitter. See, man, you're everywhere. I see your stuff. I'm following along.
Yeah, so that's top of mind. And then I would say, aside from that, my son turns 3 tomorrow. So that's
cool.
top of mind.
Happy birthday to him. What's your favorite online tool that's indispensable for your workday?
I'm going to go with just the plain old Gmail.
Yeah, can't beat it.
I'm an email inbox weirdo. If you send me an email, it will get answered.
Okay, cool. Good to know. So everyone I was watching this, email Andrew right now.
I mean, it'll get, I'm not interested or a thank you for sending this, but it will get answered.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
That's a tough one. I don't really get too many compliments. I don't know. Maybe lately it's been a lot about on MicroAcquire. So I'd say just compliments from customers on MicroAcquire helping them sell their business.
Cool. How many hours of sleep do you get every night?
Usually 6 to 8.
What's your go-to lazy dinner?
Either Chipotle or Panda Express.
Panda Express. Wow. Okay.
I am actually known within my company as like the Panda Express. I'd eat there on my birthday. I'd put it that way.
Oh my! No comment on that one for me.
Yeah.
What's something you wish you knew when you were 20?
I would say just everything will work out.
Mm-hmm. Cool. At what time of day do you get your best work done?
Either 5 a.m. or 8 p.m. Early in the morning or late at night when it's quiet.
Okay. And then is there an occupation other than what you're doing now that you want to try or would like to try?
I'd say professional surfer. So I can get paid to fly to Hawaii or Bali or whatever and be really good at surfing.
Great. Sounds good. That's a dream job. So thanks so much for coming on, Andrew. I think everyone learned a lot from your insights, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah. Brian, thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
That's all for this episode of Small Business, Big Results. Head over to this video right here for the next episode in the series, where I'll be chatting with Lydia Infante about TikTok and its role in search. Thanks so much for watching.